Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode and installment of the Mojo Market Report right here on a feel-good football Friday. It is Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, A5, Anthony behind the glass at Chop Studios. It is a good one here, folks, because we found out last night that it's not just a made-up name. You are officially primetime Chris.
No, shut
yes,
up.
you are.
Shut
It is.
up.
I cannot believe you shorted Baker Mayfield like that.
You can't believe I shorted Baker Mayfield. Guys, look, do we have to? We're going to get right into it, right?
We'll get into the game at least, and then we'll get into him, yeah.
Well, we got one top mover that did not play in the game yesterday. Do you want to cover him first?
I guess.
And then we get to Baker?
Yeah, we'll get to Baker in a minute. But before we get to Baker and the amazing Rams comeback, top mover starts before this game happened. We had some news. It's a bye week for the Falcons, right? So they had to make a move, and they did. It's Desmond Ridder time in Atlanta. I'm excited about it because he's like last of the Mohegans, really. Like the last one to really get a chance to get going, I think, right? Is there anybody else?
Willis got his star.
Right, everybody got
had their
at least some options and opportunities. But Desmond Ridder right now comes in there. He spikes yesterday. He's up 24 hours, 3.29%. Clearly, he's available for a 3-time multiplier. So if you believed in Ridder from jump, obviously you felt it yesterday, when the announcement made. Do you agree with the decision now at this time?
It seems like it makes most sense.
Yeah.
The writing was on the wall. I'm surprised I didn't see it coming, and I apologize in advance now because I should have noticed. Like the Falcons are on a bye. That's when they're going to
Week
get
14
Ridder
bye.
go. And look, I think Ridder is just a little more athletic version of Mariota with a bigger arm. Now, the decision-making, I think we're going to have to see how that plays out. But Arthur Smith will probably dial up some plays up top, see if Ridder, could extend or take the cover off the defense a little bit. I think that's going to be the game plan. And if they get down low, I fully expect Ridder to punch in some touchdown runs. So,
do you expect him to make everybody else around him kind of better? Like, I know the receiving core over there right now is missing. They trade away. It's Drake London's show, really, because after they traded away,
I'm going to pull up their schedule.
If they traded away Calvin Ridley, who was suspended this year, he'll be playing for the Jaguars next year. But the options down there for Ridder to start gelling. Him and Drake London could do some special things.
And I'm looking at their schedule going forward. At New Orleans after the bye, at Baltimore, at home against Arizona. That's
His first start's going to be in the Dome at New Orleans?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the typical New Orleans Saints that we're used to.
But their
defense is
no matter
okay.
what.
And then they finish off with Tampa Bay at home. So Arizona, Tampa Bay. There's some opportunity there, I think.
Absolutely. And right now, Desmond Ridder is the 70th. That's right, 7-0 ranked quarterback on Mojo. He's like sandwiched in between two college kids. So clearly, he's low right now. If you think he's going to be, if he's going to take the league on by storm, now's the chance to get him. So good job for Desmond Ridder for being patient, sitting behind the learning tree of Marcus Mariota, and now you got your opportunity. But now we get to the elite. Elite.
Shut up, dude.
The GOAT. Baker Goatfield. Baker Mayfield has just... Listen, you got it. I know we were out here shorting him yesterday and saying like, oh, he's going to make the team worse and this, that, and the third. He's doing the job. I took that personally. Like, he went out there and had himself a night.
Did he?
He had himself a fourth quarter drive.
Did he? Because I'm looking at it like this. Okay. Now, I'm not buying in, all right?
Oh, you're not?
No.
Not even after this?
I'm not buying in. It was cool. It was fun to see the backyard style of football. But as Baker Mayfield has this offense handed to him, right? And it starts to get a little more complex. And he has to start calling actual audibles at the line of scrimmage and actually breaking things down. And when things matter, basically. Right?
Okay.
Now, let's not...
So this is a no-pressure situation.
This is a no-pressure situation against
I understand.
a piss-poor defense and a piss-poor secondary at best. And let's look at the game as a whole. All right? I saw a meme today, and I didn't need to see the meme because I knew what happened. But... It said that the Raiders were up 16-3, and there was 3 minutes to go in the game. So basically, 57 minutes of football, Baker was able to muster 3 points, right? What was his stats? What was his final stats?
Baker went 20 of 35 for a touchdown. The yards was about 230.
Okay, so he had 98 of them on the last drive. So going into the last minute of the game, he had 100 yards and...
You are just 10 in the points. Hate parade right now.
I'm not hating Baker. I don't like Baker.
Well, that's very established.
But I don't want to sit here and have egg on my face because Baker Mayfield had a good play or a good drive, right? against a piss poor defense.
Hater.
I'm doubling down on shorting Baker.
Ooh.
I understand that I was wrong and you probably lost a little bit, but guys, I apologize for that. Now,
here's your chance to make it back.
Just stick around because this is how the market works. If he goes up and you're like, oh man, I lost my money. It's like, no, just wait a week. Baker stinks. You will get your money back. Just be patient. I promise.
Now he's promising, folks.
I'm promising. Now I
promising
just got,
here on a Friday.
I just got the rush of heat. I was like, oh shit. Now I'm promising things. No, I mean, like, there's one thing I could promise confidently is that we could short Baker. Baker is not going to meet his market expectations. It might not be today, but Baker's going down. I can promise
Baker's
you that.
going down. He's like,
I just promised for the second time.
Yes, you did. Boy, all right, we're making promises here on a Feel Good Friday.
Try not to break this promise.
Can we also talk about a little bit of a fun wide receiver connection that he made last night with Ben Skronik? Ben Skronik is your third top mover of the night. 7 catches, 8 targets. 89 yards, 2-time multiplier. So nobody's really going crazy on Ben Skronik. There is a side story about Benny Scrawny himself. Did you hear? I mean, I don't know if you listened to their telecast. I am still an Al Michaels guy. I do listen to the stories. Him and Kirk Herbstreit told the story that on the flight to the combine, Baker and Ben Skronik talked like they were sat next to each other, talked, built a relationship there, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, 4 years later, they're playing for the same team. There is some camaraderie there between Ben Skronik and
That might
Baker
be the
Mayfield.
corniest story that I've ever heard in my entire life. Did you hear the real story about Ben Skronik?
No.
It was mid-third quarter, and his father was busy compiling I wouldn't call it a highlight tape, we'll call it a low light tape of Baker overthrowing his son. And it was ready to put
Skronik's out of town.
And then the fourth quarter happened. He was like, all right, I'll take it back. But that video is coming out next week. It's going to be Ben Skronik Sr. posting a video about how bad Baker is at playing
And he went to the school of OBJ Senior or whatever Odell's father is.
Yeah.
They all went to the same editing
But
school.
yeah,
so
Ben
it'll be great.
Skronik, I mean, the value is there. He's very low. I don't know that.
It's $1.39.
I don't know that there's going to be opportunity when guys get healthy next year.
I was going to say, why not have him as a third guy?
A 2-year deal. Yeah,
Cooper Kupp,
but
Robinson,
Van Jefferson.
he caught a touchdown last night.
Van Jefferson, I feel like, is a little bit a step above.
I think there's a role for Ben Skronik. I think he's going to be one of those lifers that stick around.
He's the wide receiver 4 next year.
Okay, fine. He's a wide receiver 4. Still a wide receiver, still on the team, on the field. That's a play. That's a good idea. All right, so that was Thursday Night Football. I did tweet out right before the game. I was like, man, we are not getting any Thursday Night Football like love. Like sometimes you might see a game. Even the matchups are juicy sometimes, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one.
We
And
had
then
the
it's
New
not.
England Buffalo one, and it was like, eh.
Yeah, right. And then this game, the entire quarter, I'm like, oh, God. So as soon as it was 16-10, right? And I'm like, all right, backdoor broski over here. Baker Mayfield going to win me a bet. And then he gets the ball, and I'm like, in my mind, my first thought of this game, of this last drive, starting on the 2, was that the Raiders were up 6. Safety. And it was going to crush the bet. And I was like, this is not good. And then the pressure was on. Bro, Crosby held on every play.
Oh, yeah.
That dude's a monster. It was disturbing to see how many chokeholds he had to get out of last night.
And I do feel like that there was a little bit of assistance by the refs on that final drive. Just going to say that.
The knocking the ball out of the hand, I don't know what was said. That was the biggest play of the night. Like that, the literally unsportsmanlike conduct. Like he could have been like, "Ha ha, Baker," and just slapped it in joking. But like the referee, if you look at the referee's face, he was the biggest get off my lawn guy of all time. He's like, "You can't do that." He throws the flag. I'm like, no way. Like this game's gonna be extended because of this clown.
Raider football.
It is Raider football. So the rest of Week 14 is about to deliver some goods. I think that there's a lot of good matchups coming up. Week 14 is here. Time to make you some money. We'll start on the local front. Obviously, thanks to A5. By the way, A5, I saw that you upgraded and put some team graphics on the tops of the thing. So he put some work into this one. I know you guys can't see this at home, but those little blurbs right there, those are logos. Huh? So it's not just stats here.
I don't get them somehow. I don't know. I guess
I print them out for myself so I could sound smarter than you, but then you pull up the DVOA stuff, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw these away. But the Giants are taking on the Eagles. They get back to this one. Obviously, all Cowboys fans have a very big rooting interest in this. Go Giants, go Big Blue, go get them, guys. But will they? I don't see it. I just the Eagles are a well-oiled machine. They've run through everybody that they played this year. Their offense is averaging, oh my God, they're averaging 402 yards of offense a game. So they're clearly doing well on the offensive side of the ball. Jalen Hurts has been the guy making me all my money over on my Mojo Market portfolio, along with a plethora of other guys. This guy's top dog, him, Tua, those guys have made me some money. But again, is there a path to the Giants' success here, specifically in the Mojo Market? Is Daniel Jones going to go out there and do a thing? Look, the run defense of Philly gets back Jordan Davis. They get healthy. They sign Sue. They sign Linval Joseph. They sign all these guys that clog the middle of the field. Does Barkley find any holes this Sunday?
I think if there's going to be any type of success, if there's going to be any success for the Giants, it's going to have to be on the ground.
Okay.
The Eagles, they get after it in the pass defensive game. It's not so much built on the pass rush, but it is there. But really, the corners have been playing out of this world this year. I know Dave doesn't like Bradbury, but Bradbury is a solid player.
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, they're second in EPA added per play, estimated points added per play.
But they lose points because they're the Eagles.
And they're one spot behind your Cowboys. But no, they don't lose points because they're Eagles. They probably actually gain points because they're playing the Giants, right? Because the Giants don't really have much of it in the passing game. But there will be some openings for Daniel Jones to get things going on the ground. I think if Daniel Jones gets going with his legs, that's going to be the biggest factor in this game. We think Saquon should do his thing because he's going to get the volume, right? And the Eagles can be had on the ground. They've been really bad against the run the last 6 weeks, but they also now get back Jordan Davis,
yeah.
And they have Sue that could probably be into the fold a little bit better now.
Daniel Jones has 522 rushing yards. That's a quiet number, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on in regards to the rushing attack. I mean, if he's going to be this. I don't think that the Giants' key to success here is to drop back and try to make some plays through the air. I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's nobody else to throw to. Slayton, I guess, sometimes has come on, but outside of that, it's a bunch of who's who and nobody knows what.
Yeah, I mean, it's Daniel Jones or it's Saquon for me.
Is there tight end playing this week?
Bellinger? Yeah, I think he is.
Right,
there could be openings there, but I doubt it. I mean, I'm not really looking forward to seeing anybody in the passing game here. It's Saquon and Daniel Jones as far as the Giants go. And look, A.J. Brown's been playing the last 2 weeks really well. I don't know that they have anybody to check him over there. And Philly's rolling right now. This game's in Philly?
No, this game's in New York.
This game's in New York.
Let's go.
Look, this could be...
If there's any trip up to be had...
This could be a tough spot. I feel like the Giants are, coming off of a real embarrassing tie. I wouldn't call it embarrassing.
No,
they were left with a sour taste in their mouth. The Eagles are riding kind of high right now, coming off of a big dominant win. It might be a tough spot, visiting the Giants. This is a division game, but I still gotta roll with Philly in this one and Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, everybody involved over there. A lot of people said that they were going to take a little bit of a step back with the loss of Dallas Goedert, and I feel like they have in that regard, but like overall, they're still scoring points. This team is just... I don't know. They're firing all cylinders. They're hot at the right time. They've been hot all year. They lost one game.
Really,
so
it's hard to deal with Jalen Hurts right now.
It really
Honestly,
is. He's an MVP. Really, if I had to put my money on the MVP, right now, I think I'm putting it on Jalen Hurts. I mean, you can make the argument for Patrick Mahomes, but then he's dropping too.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so.
One loss. I mean, it says
moving about 5 hours north of Giant Stadium. Yes, I've made this trip to Buffalo, and it's a very, very long drive. Or what was it, Albany? It was Albany, but it's got to be up there too, right? I'm not a big geography guy. Right?
Buffalo's a little more west.
Same. Yeah, it's like Canada almost, right? So Buffalo getting back home to take on Mike White and the New York Football Jets. Now, look, the Buffalo Bills have been that team that it's like they've won games, clearly. Their record is who they are, but they haven't blown the doors off anybody. And then Josh Allen has games where you're like, right? But then there's games that Josh Allen's like, there he is, right? So like they're a little Jekyll and Hyde, but they haven't been Hyde on the loss department. They keep winning football games. In come the Jets. Mike White, who just put 500 yards, not him completely, but the Jets put 500 yards on a very, very porous Vikings defense. In come the Bills. Last year, after Mike White, the hype of Mike White last year, he went back home to go face the Bills. And now he's got to go on the road to face the Bills. Last year was not pretty. Is this year the same thing?
Mike White's going to get eaten alive.
Yeah,
I think.
This is a recipe for disaster.
It's a bad spot for the Jets. The Bills you say that they're not beating up on teams. I kind of see it the opposite. I feel like they're just completely toying. They're like playing with their food they let a couple teams stick around that way. With the Dolphins, they lost that game.
Yeah.
The Jets in that first time that they played, terrible. The way that Josh Allen almost broke his elbow and lost me my Survivor $50,000 prize.
Oof.
That was
but
brutal.
good thing you're on the Mojo Market.
So there's some revenge on the minds of the Buffalo Bills. And I got to say, the Jets, I've been reading that there's the flu bug going around the locker room. That's not good going up to Buffalo, trying to play in that cold weather. If everybody's dealing with something,
it's going to be -6.
Or some guys are dealing with something, we might see guys get missing games or not practicing because of illness. And then having to go and play in that cold weather with the flu, that's not an ideal situation.
Not at all.
I don't know who it is. They're doing a good job keeping it under wraps, but we'll look at the practice report today and see what Jets players are.
I mean, I don't see anybody
as questionable.
Yeah, right. I don't see anybody missing the game. I just also see some sluggish play.
Yeah, I mean, whether you play or you
ain't
don't
Jordan.
play,
You're not dropping double nickel in the garden.
If a couple guys have the flu, that's not a good spot to be in. And I have to be honest, if you have the flu and you're not antibioticed up, you can't play. You know, you can't go out there with the flu unless you have 24 hours of antibiotics in you. So if somebody comes down with something tomorrow, I mean, yeah.
If it was 2 years ago, they'd be out for 5 days.
If I'm giving you, if I have the flu,
yeah.
and I'm contagious still, like I can't go play football.
By the way, the flu is already run through chops too.
I'm not even sure if that's a rule. Honestly.
It can't be. It used to be.
I'm not promising
There's
anything.
no more COVID protocols or anything like that. So that was like around the same deal.
Either way.
And any event.
The Jets have the flu, and they're playing the Bills, and that's not a good spot to be in.
Not a good spot.
The Bills have revenge on their mind. Josh Allen is looking to overtake Jalen Hurts for the MVP. Not that that's what his goal is, but
I'm curious to know about this. Stephon Diggs is averaging 100 yards a game.
Well, he's not going to get 100.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. He's about to deal with Sauce Gardner. So, I see this being a low-scoring affair. I don't know. I don't see.
Yeah, the Jets defense will
The
definitely
Jets
be there
defense is the reason why they're where they are.
Barring it's not ridden with the flu.
The Jets defense has the flu.
Jets defense is gonna show up a little bit because they make it difficult to throw, and it's gonna be freezing.
It's gonna be cold. It is December football after all, as we move into the wonderful town and city of Cincinnati, Ohio, where it's gonna be just as cold. And we got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Cleveland Browns in our next matchup. Now, we talked a lot about Joey B this week, right? He's caught some steam last couple weeks. It's around the same time he did it last year. They're getting hot at the right time. In come game 2 for a Deshaun Watson, who in the first game, he looked like absolute garbage against the Texans in Houston, right?
Well, I got to say this. The Texans' pass defense, very good. All right? I know that there's nothing that they do well, but every time I'm looking at, and I know this because...
You're going to make me sweat this game out? The Cowboys and the Texans right now? The 17.5-point favorites? You're going to tell me we can't throw the ball on them? But anyway, I'm just...
No. I'm saying, if there's something that they do well...
Okay, good.
If you're like, okay, I have a guy that he's playing the Texans this week, and this is speaking in fantasy terms to make it relative. Every time you have a receiver that's lined up, and the opposite matchup is the Texans, right? First of all, Stingley's a really good corner.
Stingley is good.
Rookie,
and that's a
doing
great draft
job.
pick they had, yeah.
And... they're like third. It's always, you know how on ESPN, I don't know if you have an ESPN fantasy, but they have their rankings. And if it's like a tough matchup, it'll be in red, right?
Yes. That's mostly fantasy things, yeah.
It's always a 3 red when you're playing the Texans. So they're the third best. I don't know what the metric is and what they're using in terms of DVOA or EPA, but overall, in the ESPN grand spectrum, the Texans have a good pass defense.
So this is all because we're talking about, obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. The reason why I bring that up was Deshaun Watson.
I'm giving Watson a pass a little bit on last week's performance because there was a lot of pressure going into Houston. They had his, the accusers sitting in a booth. It was a
rough.
very weird situation. I'm not going to say I feel for the guy because I definitely don't. But you got to give the 1 week, get his bearings a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Cincinnati only giving up 226 through the air. Both teams are actually very similar through the air, by the way.
Deshaun Watson, I'm not gonna short him or anything like that. I'm not going long. I'm just gonna leave that be and see how that plays out. But they're gonna give him the rest of this season, and they paid him $250 million guaranteed. So really, it's not even about this season for Deshaun Watson. It's going forward. I think they knew this was a lost year.
Now, flipping over to the Bengals.
It's
going to be a nice little
It is going to
setup
be
for
a
him.
nice little setup for him because the Browns defense has struggled a lot this year, right? Joe Mixon's full practice yesterday. He should be back ready to go in this
That's
one.
good.
So that gets the Bengals haven't had a full complement of their offensive stars since Jamar Chase went out a couple weeks back. Now they're going to get their offense back. But I'll say this, right? Joe Burrow doesn't lose in the month of December. But guess what also Joe Burrow doesn't do? He doesn't beat the Browns. He's 0-4.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's
Or 0-3, but he's 0-0. 0 whatever he's played.
Okay,
right?
so he hasn't
he's not
beat the
beating
Browns.
the Browns yet, so something's got to give right here.
Interesting.
Is
A little
Joe
bit of
Burrow gonna step
kryptonite for
up?
Joe Cool, huh? Oh, I like it.
So
I like that.
something's
That's a
got to
deep dive.
give.
All
And
right.
I'm going to say that it's going to give. And it's going to give in the way of Joe Burrow getting
Joe
his
Burrow's
dub.
playing all world right now. I would go long on him. I would go long on Chase. I would even stay long on Mixon. The entire Bengals offense looks good in the month of December. Specifically, you've touched on that. And now they're going to go on a playoff run. So we already talked about playoff players this week in particular. Scroll back a couple days. We're talking about guys we should get in on because of the playoff opportunities. The Bengals are going to get that. So the Browns will not. All right, moving on. Very good game here. It's a make or break game, I think, for the Los Angeles Chargers right now. This is it for them. I understand that they're right now. I think are they in the playoffs or in the hunt? I think they're in the hunt.
Chargers?
Yeah.
They're in the hunt.
They're in the hunt, right? They got to win this game. They have to win this game. And the only way you win this game is if you get your stars involved. Justin Herbert, to me, is having a down year. He is. Like, I understand the stats might not dictate that. He's thrown for 3,300 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. Almost a 2-to-1, just a little bit better than a 2-to-1 ratio right now. But again, based off the expectations and what people say about Justin Herbert as just the second coming of Montana, you know what I mean? Like, he's not living up to that this year. I think it has a lot to do with coaching. I'm not a fan of that coach. I know me and you both aren't.
There's a couple things, yeah. One, spotty offensive line play a little bit.
They lost Slater for the year. That was their big
very
guy.
bad coaching, I think, and poor decision making in crucial spots where you really put your defense up against it with the field position, and then the offense up against it by giving up needless points, and then also taking points off the board by potentially not kicking field goals in spots where you should.
Right.
I think all those things play into this, but the major factor here is Mike Williams been banged up, Keenan Allen's been banged up. Austin Eckler's been good in the way of receiving the ball out of the backfield, and he's a touchdown machine. But they don't have a run. They don't have a scheme to run the football with the offensive line. That's the way they're playing right now. The Chargers are reeling a little bit. I don't know that the Dolphins on the road coming off of an L is the right matchup for them. The Dolphins, I don't see them as a team that's going to lose 2 straight games. Tua barely loses ever, and I know I made the joke where Tua did not finish that game, so the Dolphins are technically still undefeated in games that Tua starts and finishes.
Yeah, well, listen, that's that. Hey, we're just reporting the facts here,
So
folks.
now,
That's all we're doing.
to rewind everything a little bit and go back to the Justin Herbert thing, he does have all his weapons now, right? Keenan Allen back, Mike Williams back, Austin
When's the
Eckler
last
back.
time you saw both of those guys on the field at the same
right?
time?
And Gerald Everett playing. So
Single-digit Everett
I
about to
feel
get
like
involved?
this might be the second since week 2, maybe, that he's had a full complement of players on his team with all his weapons there. We'll see how it plays out against this Miami team on the road. Now I'll flip it to the other side. I've been talking highly of Jeff Wilson Jr. He had a rough go of it last week, but we kind of expected that against the 49ers. His old team, they were probably geeked up to put a hat on him. I think in this game, it's tailor-made. The Chargers down the stretch lately have been one of the worst rush defenses in football. For the whole season, they're 30th.
Could be tailor-made for a big thumper
in
day.
adjusted line yards against, and I think Jeff Wilson's going to have himself a little bit of a day. Jalen Waddle, questionable. He had a foot or a calf injury in the last game. He left the game, questionable to return, but he did come back, but I think they used him mainly as a decoy. He should be ready to go in this one, but I'm not sure he's fully healthy. It might be a lot of the same. So I'm going to stay away from Waddle as much as he's one of my favorite players in football. I'm going to stay away in this game. Waddle, shaky, on over to Jeff Wilson Jr. because he's going to be going up.
Yeah, so obviously the rush will be the key to success here. But again, I'm long on Tua, so let's all call it like he's one of the – until the market catches up, we're just going to keep having to label Tua as the most undervalued quarterback on the Mojo Market. If you don't have Tua in your portfolio right now, if you watch this show every day –
Tua's the long play. You should
do yourself a favor.
You should be in on Tua right now anyway
100%.
because there's just –
and there's going to be weeks like I had 2 weeks ago where my stock went down a little bit because I'm watching it. I'm like, dude, this is the worst performance of his life, right? And like he's not playing well.
It's like,
but guess what? Tua bounces back.
He had a tough game against the best defense in football right now, and then you look over and he's like, oh, he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You're in.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future. Get in on Tua. All right, so that's another great game. And we'll finish up today with the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. This one's interesting because Detroit's been really, really kicking around the idea that they could be a playoff contender here. I mean, I know they're a couple games out still, but it's still alive. So, like, the offenses are clicking. We talked about Jared Goff possibly saving his job earlier this week. Do you still think that continues against a very, very bad Viking?
Yeah,
if Mike White and the Jets put up 500, what is Jared Goff and the rest of this team going to do?
Jared Goff came out this week and said that he's playing the best football of his career right now.
Career.
He gave himself the vote of confidence. He gave himself the endorsement
Huge.
and said, "Hey guys, look, we're winning some football games here. You know, you could count on me, right? I hope you could count on me. You can count on me." I'm thinking Jared Goff sticks around in Detroit for a little bit. They have something nice going, even if they bring in a quarterback, because they do have that pick from the Rams. Even if they bring in a quarterback with Goff's contract at $20 million and a 2-year, they really don't have to worry about keeping him around. There's no cap hit, right?
Yeah.
But as a rookie quarterback coming in on a deal, you're going to keep Goff around. But forget the future of the Lions. Let's talk about Sunday, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was injured middle of the season this year. Since he's come back, he's averaging just over 10 targets per game. You expect that to continue against this bad, very bad Vikings pass defense. These teams played in week 3, and the Lions completely controlled the game through and through. They ran the ball well. They threw the ball well. And it all up until the fourth quarter, and then the wheels came off, and they let Minnesota creep back in the game. For the offense of the Minnesota Vikings, very different than what you're typically used to seeing. Justin Jefferson had 3 catches for 14 yards. They triple-teamed him that game.
Yeah.
I think with the way they had success for mainly like 55 minutes of the first game, they're probably going to play him very similar and make them beat them on the ground, which they were able to do. Dalvin Cook had himself a nice game, almost hit 100 yards. But KJ Osborne and Adam Thielen were the 2 guys that were...
Now, you shorted Thielen yesterday. You think
I'm still shorting Thielen for the season, but I think that there's going to be possibly some opportunities for the other guys, because if they're going to be triple covering, double covering Justin Jefferson... Now, I say Thielen, but really it's not Thielen.
I got a feeling it's going to be Hawkinson.
It's going to be T.J. Hawkinson, yeah.
Come on.
Because we talked about it yesterday, how Thielen was kind of bumped out of the second role, and now he's definitely receiving the 3rd most targets. Hawkinson's the 2nd most. I think that's an opportunity here for the Vikings to feed their boy against his ex-former team.
I'm with it.
You know
the
how
return to Detroit.
Coaches and teammates love to get the guy involved coming off of his playing his former team. That happened a lot.
But don't get it twisted. Both of these defenses are bad. Okay, they're both giving up equally 414 yards a game. 400 a game.
They just gave DJ Chark the game ball in Detroit because he had like a moderately average game against the Jaguars. Like, congrats, bro. It's the Jaguars.
DJ, where you at, DJ? Here, listen, here's a game ball. It's
so
like,
what else do I got
we're biting
here?
kneecaps over here. Let's go.
What else do I got here on this game? Oh, how could I forget?
The game's not in prime time.
It's not in prime time. But before we go, right? Before we go, this very well might be.
Yes, I know where you're going with
the
this.
final time that you could get Jameson Williams at this low price. Now, it might not be the final time, right? It might be a week later. It might be 2 weeks later. But I don't think a poor performance out of Jameson Williams is going to make his stock go down at all.
No.
I think right now is the lowest you're going to see it. Maybe a percentage point here or there, depending on how he does the next couple of weeks. But this guy is a star in the making on an offense that's clearly willing to throw the ball a lot with a guy that's already demanding some attention on the other side. Jameson Williams is stepping into a very good situation.
Is this it? The Jameson Williams come out party?
I feel like they did announce that there's going to be an increased role with some potential for him to make some plays in this one. Last week, they didn't really use him much. I think it was like 5 snaps or something like that. I don't know, maybe more. He didn't get any involvement.
No,
one target. I think Jameson Williams could be the time, and if it's not this week, it's going to be next season, but get in on him now because it's going to go up very soon.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like week 14.
He's my favorite guy to hate in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, exactly.
No, he'll blow up against Green Bay. He'll toast Jair.
A couple times, but we'll get there eventually. But week 14, we'll deliver some action. And of course, if you want to follow Mojo, you can do so right now by heading on over to social media. You can do that by following us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We've been breaking news faster than everybody else over there on the Discord, on mojo.com. You can follow us over there. The bloggers and the writers and all the guys that are involved over there have been doing a fantastic job. And like I said, I was very impressed when I saw that, like, my Mojo alert came up first, then ESPN, then Bleacher Report. And I was like, how do they get that so fast? So they're on it. They're on the ball. We've been at that place. It's a mill. All right, you're there.
Yeah.
You are working if you're at Mojo and the headquarters over there in New York City. So any of it, enjoy the football, please. Bet responsibly. Do all this responsibly. Don't lose the more. It's Christmas. But if you want to listen to some of our advice, you might have a couple extra shekels for Christmas time.
Baker.
And he wants to short Baker still. Hater. Anyway, For Dave Sturchio and hater Chris over here, this has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. Enjoy week number 14. We'll put a bow on week 14 and preview some Monday Night Football in just a few days. Have a great weekend, everybody.